There are moments in life so profoundly unsettling, so utterly devastating, that they rip apart the very fabric of your existence. A sudden cold clarity descends, revealing a truth so vile it reshades every cherished memory, every selfless sacrifice, every act of unwavering love you ever offered. For me, that moment arrived on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday afternoon. The world outside hummed with its usual rhythm, unaware that inside my quiet home, a whispered confession meant for someone else was about to unravel my entire life, exposing a monstrous betrayal that would redefine the meaning of family, loyalty, and the terrifying cost of unconditional love. It was a single, accidental voice message, a fleeting digital error that changed everything, forcing me to confront a reality far darker than any nightmare and awakening a resolve I never knew I possessed. A daughter's cruel deception. My name is Heng and I'm 66 years old. That Tuesday, my heart, which had swelled with a mother's pride and endless affection for decades, was irrevocably shattered. A single notification pinged on my phone. A voice message from my daughter, Grace, meant for her husband. I pressed play, expecting a casual update, perhaps a request for dinner, blissfully unaware that the next few minutes would be the most excruciating of my life. The coldness in Grace's voice, devoid of any warmth I recognized, struck me first. Ricardo, I can't take having my mother in this house anymore. Each word was a physical blow, sharper than any blade. My blood ran cold, freezing in my veins as I listened to my own child, the one I'd poured my soul into raising, speak of me with such utter contempt. She's a nuisance. She gets into everything. The accusations felt like daggers, tearing at the invisible threads that bound us. And then came the truly horrifying revelation. And on top of that, we're already spending so much money on her, I've been looking into some cheap places. I found one that only costs $800 a month. The world tilted beneath my feet. $800 a month. That was the exact sum I had been quietly slipping them from my modest pension and savings each month, believing I was helping them through a tough patch. Now, that same money was earmarked for my own institutionalization. This was the same Grace for whom I had toiled day and night, scrubbing floors in other people's homes until my back ached and my hands were raw. The same daughter for whom I had sold even my meager jewelry to fund her college education, ensuring she had a future brighter than mine. She was the one who had wept inconsolably in my arms when her fiancé, Richard, first left her at the altar, and I, foolishly, had spent my last precious savings to convince him to return, believing in her happiness above all else. But the recording continued, and what followed was a descent into an even deeper abyss of betrayal. The architect of my ruin. Also, I've already checked the house papers. It's in her name, but I found a way to transfer it to our name without her realizing. My cousin Carol, who works at the county clerk's office, is going to help me. My phone, suddenly heavy as a brick, threatened to slip from my trembling hands. My own daughter, the flesh of my flesh, was meticulously plotting to steal my home. Not just any house, but the very sanctuary I had built, brick by painful brick, with the relentless sweat of 30 years, working grueling 12-hour days. It was the only tangible asset I had in this world, a testament to a lifetime of labor and dreams. But the most gut-wrenching blow, the detail that truly broke me, was hearing her callous, triumphant laugh at the end of the message, a chilling, unfeeling sound that echoed the very depths of her depravity. In a month, Mom will be in the home and we'll own everything. We can finally live in peace without that bitter old woman controlling us. If you have ever felt the earth-shattering impact of profound betrayal from someone you loved unconditionally, you will understand the seismic shock that coursed through my entire being in that moment. But what Grace, my cunning daughter, didn't realize was that her mother, at 66 years old, wasn't as naive or as easily discarded as she thought. A lifetime of hard knocks and hard work had taught me that sometimes the only way to defend yourself is to meet cunning with an even sharper, more resolute guile. Sleep was a stranger to me that night. The darkness teemed with images of her laughter, her cold words, and the sheer audacity of their plan. As dawn painted the sky, I rose with a steely determination I hadn't felt in decades, a fierce resolve burning within my soul. I carefully chose my most elegant crimson suit, a silent statement of purpose, gathered every important document I owned, and walked out of that house with a faint, enigmatic smile playing on my lips. My plan, forged in the crucible of despair and betrayal, was a storm she would never see coming. It was a plan that would change everything forever. The seeds of sacrifice. To truly grasp the magnitude of that betrayal and why Grace's words sliced so deeply, you must understand the woman I became and how my relationship with her grew to be the very core of my existence. I was raised in a world where love wasn't merely expressed, but measured by the profound sacrifices you willingly made for others. My dear mother, may she rest in peace, embodied this principle. She was a seamstress, stitching dreams and mending realities from 5 in the morning until 10 at night, her nimble fingers working tirelessly to provide for me and my 3 siblings. We never had an abundance of money, but our home was overflowing with an even greater wealth, an abundance of love, an unwavering foundation of respect, and a deep-seated set of values that guided our every step. Heng, my mother would often say, her voice soft but firm as she taught me the delicate art of sewing. In this life, the only thing that truly matters is family. And for family, you give everything you have, down to the last drop of your blood. Then, at the tender age of 18, I found myself pregnant with Grace. Her father, a whirlwind of promises and fleeting affection, vanished as if by magic. One night, he was there, sketching visions of a future together, a wedding, a family. The next morning, he was gone, a phantom limb on my heart. His parents, pillars of their community, slammed their door in my face when I sought him out, coldly informing me that their son would not ruin his future for some random girl. It was in that moment of despair, that utter rock bottom, that my mother truly showed me the immense strength she possessed. That child, she declared, her arms enveloping me, drying my tears, is going to have everything we couldn't. We'll raise her together and she will grow into a good, strong woman. My mother, without a second thought, sold her only 2 gold bracelets, the sole pieces of jewelry she owned, to ensure I had everything I needed for the baby. When Grace finally arrived, a tiny bundle of perfection, it was as if an angel had been born into our lives. She was, without exaggeration, the most beautiful baby I had ever seen, with eyes that sparkled with nascent curiosity and a smile that could, quite literally, light up the entire room. My mother and I, a tag team of devotion, took turns caring for her while I embarked on my new journey as a working mother. I started cleaning houses at 19, earning a pittance, barely $20 a day, but every single cent, every weary hour was dedicated solely to her. I remember with vivid clarity the first day I took Grace to kindergarten. We walked hand in hand because the bus fare was an unaffordable luxury, yet she was immaculate, her uniform perfectly ironed, her tiny shoes gleaming. I, in my patched-up dress, with my hands permanently calloused from scrubbing and cleaning, felt small and insignificant next to the other mothers who arrived in shiny cars, draped in expensive clothes. But then Grace, my precious girl, kissed my cheek, her innocent voice ringing with pure love. "Thank you, Mom. You're the best in the world." In that instant, every ache, every sacrifice, every feeling of inadequacy evaporated. It was all worth it. The years flowed by, each one a repetition of the same tireless routine. Waking at 4 a.m., preparing Grace's breakfast, walking her to school, then cleaning 3 different houses until 6 p.m., rushing to pick her up, helping with homework, and finally tucking her into bed with a whispered story. Weekends were not for rest, but for laundry, earning a few extra dollars, all meticulously saved and spent to ensure she had a better life than I ever could. My mother, my unwavering pillar of support, passed away when Grace was 8. But before she left this world, she extracted a solemn promise from me, words etched into my memory forever. "Shi Hung Yi," she whispered, her voice frail. "That child is your greatest treasure. Give her an education, give her love, and she will take care of you when you're old. Our family's blood is good. She won't fail you." Those words, a beacon in my grief, gave me the profound strength to persevere, even when the days were so impossibly hard that the thought of giving up was a seductive, almost unbearable whisper. When Grace turned 15, I worked extra shifts, 6 relentless months, saving every possible penny to give her the quinceañera party she so deserved. I spent $3,500 on that celebration, money I had painstakingly put aside to finally fix our perpetually leaky roof. But seeing the radiant joy on her face that night, watching her spin and shine in her golden dress as she danced, was truly priceless. "Mom, I don't know how you give me so much when you have almost nothing," she confessed, hugging me tightly that night. "When I grow up, I'm going to give all this back to you, multiplied by 1,000. Her words were a balm to my soul, a confirmation that all my efforts were understood, appreciated, and cherished. The unseen price of love. Throughout high school, Grace was everything a mother could wish for in a daughter. She was an exemplary student, consistently earning the highest grades in her class, dazzling audiences in school plays, and earning the universal praise of her teachers, who assured me she had a brilliant future ahead. But maintaining such academic excellence, I quickly learned, was far from cheap. Books, specialized uniforms, educational field trips, each item represented a financial hurdle I hadn't anticipated. My single day off, Sundays, quickly became another workday as I started cleaning a 4th house, solely to cover these burgeoning expenses. Then came the daunting prospect of college tuition, $15,000 a year. My meager earnings of $400 a month from cleaning houses rendered the math impossible. A wave of despair threatened to engulf me, but a mother, I reminded myself, does the impossible for her children. I took out a loan, bravely putting my house, my sole asset, up as collateral. I sold the only engagement ring her absent father had ever given me. And, in a poignant act of letting go, I even sold my mother's cherished sewing machine, the very symbol of her tireless dedication to our family. "My daughter," I told Grace on the day we went to enroll her, my voice thick with emotion, "I couldn't go to college, but you are going to be a professional. You'll earn your degree, you'll work in an office with air conditioning, and you will never ever have to clean other people's houses like your mother." That day, I wept tears of pure, unadulterated happiness, watching my daughter sign the enrollment papers for her business administration degree, a tangible realization of a dream I had held for her since she was born. For all 4 years of her college education, I continued my relentless work schedule, ensuring every single one of her expenses was covered. Grace needed money for textbooks, for ambitious projects, for outings with her friends, for appropriate clothes, for professional presentations. I gave her everything she asked for, even if it meant I had to subsist on beans and tortillas for an entire week just to save a few precious dollars. When she finally graduated, cap and gown flowing, walking across that stage to the roar of the crowd, hearing her name called, it was unequivocally the proudest day of my entire life. In that moment, watching her radiate success, every single sacrifice felt not just worthwhile, but profoundly meaningful. After the ceremony, she hugged me, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, "Mom, this degree is as much yours as it is mine. I would never have made it here without you. I promise you that now that I'm a professional, you will never have to suffer again." Her words, a sweet melody of gratitude, filled me with a sense of peace and vindication. The subtle shifts. A year later, Grace met Richard at her new job. Initially, I was overjoyed, witnessing her newfound contentment and the radiant glow of being deeply in love. Richard, with his stable job as a factory supervisor and his seemingly kind demeanor, appeared to be a good, honest man who treated my daughter well. When he officially asked for her hand in marriage, I cried tears of sheer emotion, convinced that Grace would finally have the stable, loving family I could never provide for her. But organizing their dream wedding became yet another monumental financial sacrifice on my part. Grace, captivated by the glossy pages of bridal magazines, envisioned an elegant celebration, a fairy tale event. The venue alone cost $8,000, her exquisite dress $2,000, the music $800, the flowers $600. In total, I spent a staggering $10,000 on that wedding, money I secured by taking out yet another loan and selling the last precious remnants of my family jewelry. The first few years of their marriage were beautiful, a harmonious symphony of familial warmth. Grace and Richard would visit me every Sunday, a cherished ritual. We would share dinner, laughter echoing through my home, and she always, without fail, helped me with the household expenses. Mom, now that I'm working, I want to take care of you the way you took care of me, she would say, gently placing money for groceries into my hand. Finally, I felt my lifelong sacrifices had yielded their ultimate reward, a grateful daughter who truly loved and appreciated me. But as with all carefully constructed facades, everything began to change 3 years ago when Richard unexpectedly lost his job, plunging them into a spiral of financial problems. Slowly, subtly, they began to ask me for money with increasing frequency and larger sums. And I, being their mother, their unconditional supporter, found myself utterly incapable of saying no. First, it was $1,000 for monthly expenses, then $2,500 for a down payment on a new car they insisted they needed, then $3,000 to alleviate burgeoning credit card debts. Everything shifted after that $3,000 loan. Small, almost imperceptible details at first, which I readily justified in my mind, attributing them to the immense stress of their financial woes. Now, after hearing that chilling voice message, I understood with agonizing clarity, it wasn't stress. It was the calculated, insidious beginning of a meticulously crafted plan to systematically push me out of their lives. The first palpable sign was the cessation of their cherished Sunday visits. Mom, we're just so incredibly busy with Richard's new job, Grace would explain on the phone, her voice laced with what I then believed was genuine regret. You know how it is. We really need to show them we're responsible, committed. I understood, or at least I thought I did. It seemed natural, after all, for a young couple to focus on building their future. But then, the excuses for not answering my calls began to multiply. I'd call in the mornings only for Grace to claim, Mom, I'm in an important meeting. I'll call you later. In the afternoons, oh, Mom, I'm at the grocery store doing our weekly shopping. By night, Mom, it's too late. We're having dinner. We'll talk tomorrow. That tomorrow rarely materialized, and when we finally did connect, the conversation rarely lasted more than 5 fleeting minutes. Then came the insidious, hurtful comments, carefully disguised as loving concern. Mom, Richard says he's noticed you've been very forgetful lately, she informed me one day during one of our increasingly rare phone calls. Are you absolutely sure you can live alone in that big house? At your age, anything could happen. I forced a nervous laugh, dismissing it as exaggeration, yet the tiny venomous seed of doubt had already been expertly planted. One afternoon, armed with the pineapple dessert Richard adored, I decided to visit them unannounced. When I knocked, I heard the faint echoes of laughter and hushed voices from within, but it took an agonizing 5 minutes for the door to finally open. Oh, Mom, what a surprise, Grace exclaimed, her smile stretched and forced, failing to reach the coldness in her eyes. We were just organizing some work papers. Inside, her cousin Carol, the one who conveniently worked at the county clerk's office, was hastily gathering a pile of scattered documents from the kitchen table. Carol, flustered, quickly stuffed the papers into a folder. Hello, Aunt Shi-Hung Yi, she greeted me, her smile as fake as Grace's. I was just helping Grace with some of Richard's health insurance paperwork. But I had already caught a fleeting glimpse of my own name on one of those documents. Why do you need papers with my name on them? I asked, my curiosity genuine, not yet tinged with suspicion. Grace and Carol exchanged a quick, knowing look, one I couldn't decipher then, but understood with horrifying clarity later. It's just to update the beneficiaries on the insurance, Mom, Grace smoothly explained. You know, in case something happens to us, you're our only family. That explanation, delivered with such practiced ease, momentarily calmed my anxieties. But over time I noticed that any mention of the subject would cause Grace to swiftly, almost desperately, change the conversation. Mom, why don't you tell me about the garden? She'd interject. "Oh, Mom, did you see the new show on Channel 5? The invasion of my sanctuary." The deliberate forgetfulness began next, an unsettling pattern designed to isolate me. They would invite me to lunch, only for me to arrive at the restaurant and find them conspicuously absent. "Oh, Mom, we completely forgot to tell you we had to cancel," they'd later offer, a thinly veiled excuse. "Richard had a work emergency." This charade unfolded 3 times in 2 months. The 4th time, I sat alone in that bustling restaurant for a solitary, humiliating hour, feeling like a fool, watching other families enjoy their meals while I was conspicuously abandoned. Then came the exclusion from important family events. I discovered, purely by chance, from my kind neighbor, Miss Rose, that they had hosted a barbecue to celebrate Richard's birthday. "How strange you weren't there, Shi Heng Yi," Miss Rose remarked, genuinely puzzled. "I saw them buying meat for like 20 people at the supermarket." When I confronted Grace, she feigned innocence. "Oh, Mom, it was a very informal thing. We didn't want to bother you." But the final unbearable straw, the precursor to my complete unraveling, was their decision to move into my house temporarily. "Mom," Grace announced, her voice honeyed with manufactured concern, "they're going to paint our apartment, and we need to stay with you for about a month. Besides, this way we can spend more time together. Don't you think it's perfect?" I, ever the optimistic mother, was genuinely happy. I believed this temporary arrangement would finally restore the closeness we had lost. However, from the very first day they set foot inside my home, things irrevocably shifted. My house, once my sanctuary, began to feel like an occupied territory. Richard almost immediately started complaining about everything. My television was too old, the internet too slow, the shower's water pressure pathetic. "Aunt, this house needs a lot of repairs," he would declare, his words laced with thinly disguised disdain. "At your age, maintaining such a big property must be very difficult." Grace, meanwhile, started reorganizing my cherished possessions without a single word of permission. "Mom, these plates are too old. I'm going to replace them with new ones," she'd announce, discarding my history. "And these clothes you have in the closet are so out of style. We should just donate them." Slowly, inexorably, my house ceased to feel like my house. It was as if I were a bewildered guest in my own home, my autonomy eroding with each passing day. Then began the hushed conversations, the sudden awkward silences when I entered a room. I'd catch them whispering conspiratorially in the kitchen, only for their voices to drop to an immediate innocent silence, the topic swiftly changing to something trivial, like the weather or the news. "What were you talking about?" I would inquire, a nascent unease stirring within me. "Nothing important, Mom," Grace would reply, her smile a brittle mask. "Just about the house expenses." One night, I overheard Richard talking on the patio phone. "Yeah, we're already living here." "No, she doesn't suspect a thing. Carol says she can have all the papers ready in 2 more weeks." When I cautiously stepped outside to ask who he was speaking to, he quickly claimed it was his boss discussing a work project. They also began to subtly, insidiously control my finances. "Mom, let me help you with the electric and water bills," Grace would say, her tone saccharine. "You're too old to be worrying about these things." At first, I foolishly perceived it as a kind, filial gesture. But then, I discovered she was meticulously scrutinizing all my bank statements. "Mom, why do you need so much cash?" she would demand, her tone laced with suspicion whenever she saw I had withdrawn a mere $200 for my personal expenses. The most excruciating pain, however, came from hearing them talk about me, believing I wasn't within earshot. One afternoon, as I trimmed the roses in my garden, I heard Richard tell someone on the phone, "My mother-in-law is getting harder to handle. She's becoming very stubborn with age." Grace, I heard distinctly in the background, laughed a cold, mirthless sound and added, "It's true. Lately she forgets things and gets very difficult when we try to help her." But what truly ripped open my eyes, forcing me to confront the appalling reality, was when they began making disparaging comments about my mental health in front of other people. My dear friend of many years, Miss Letitia, came to visit, and Grace, with an air of profound concern, declared, "Oh, Letitia, my mom has been so confused lately. Yesterday she wanted to go for a walk at 10 at night because she thought it was morning. This was an outright fabrication, a malicious lie. I had never, ever done such a thing, but I saw the immediate, pitying concern in Letitia's eyes. "Oh, Shi Hung Yi," she said, her voice dripping with sympathy. "It's a good thing you have Grace to take care of you." In that moment, a slow, burning anger ignited within me, mingling with an immense, heartbreaking sadness, as I realized my own daughter was systematically constructing a false, damaging narrative about my mental state. The web of lies tightens. Soon after, a parade of strange visitors began to arrive at my house, each one a harbinger of their sinister plot. Doctors, ostensibly there to check my blood pressure, social workers intent on evaluating my living conditions, and even a man who introduced himself with a chillingly professional demeanor as a geriatric care specialist. They all appeared at Grace's convenience, never once bothering to ask if I actually desired these intrusive visits. During one of these evaluations, I distinctly overheard the doctor conversing with Grace in the living room. "Ma'am," he stated, his voice clinical and detached, "your mother seems to be physically fine, but I'm going to note in the report that she shows signs of mild age-related confusion." I stood in the kitchen, utterly lucid and fully aware, my blood boiling as this man scribbled blatant falsehoods about my mental state, fabricating a history that would serve their cruel agenda. The tension within the walls of my home became an almost unbearable weight, pressing down on me with suffocating force. Each passing day brought with it more insidious pressure, more overt control over my life, more hurtful comments thinly veiled as genuine care. "Mom, you shouldn't drive anymore," Richard announced one day, his tone authoritative. "At your age, it's simply too dangerous." Grace quickly chimed in. "Mom, it's better if you don't go shopping alone anymore. We can do it for you." Little by little, piece by agonizing piece, they were systematically stripping away my independence, my autonomy, my very dignity. And the most agonizing part was that they did it all with polite smiles, assuring me it was for my own good, that they loved me so much and only wanted to take care of me. The ultimate deception, a mask of concern covering a heart of stone. The unforgivable revelation. The moment that irrevocably changed everything arrived that fateful Tuesday afternoon, when my world imploded due to a simple technological error, revealing the cruelest truth I had ever experienced in my 66 years. The day had been particularly fraught with an unsettling undercurrent. Grace and Richard had departed early, claiming work matters, but I sensed a deeper, more sinister undercurrent. I had witnessed their furtive whispers all morning, and when I inquired, they offered those same fake smiles, the ones I had learned to dread. "It's nothing, Mom," Grace had chirped, "just boring stuff about Richard's job." I was left alone in the house, that familiar pressure tightening in my chest, a constant companion for weeks. My home, once my haven, now felt like a gilded cage, a silent prison. Every routine, every cherished space, even the rhythm of my solitary life had been mercilessly altered to accommodate their needs and, unbeknownst to me, their secret, nefarious plans. Around 3 in the afternoon, I was brewing chamomile tea, desperately seeking solace for my frayed nerves, when my phone chimed, a voice message from Grace. My initial thought, imbued with a mother's persistent hope, was that she was simply letting me know they would be late, or perhaps asking me to prepare something special for dinner. Oh, how naive I was, how completely unaware that my daughter had ceased to consider me important enough to share her plans with. I pressed the play button, utterly unprepared for the cataclysmic 3 minutes that would follow, minutes that would tear my entire life to shreds. "Richard, I can't take having my mother in this house anymore." Grace's voice, brimming with an exasperation she had never dared to show me in person, began the brutal assault. My heart, already fragile, simply stopped. Those words, spoken with such undisguised contempt, felt like sharp daggers piercing my very soul. This was not the sweet daughter who had hugged me, whispering, "I love you, Mom," every time she left. This was a stranger, a cold, calculating architect of my despair. "She's a total nuisance, Richard. She gets into everything we do, always asking questions, always there." And on top of that, we're already spending so much money on her. I've been looking into some cheap places. I found one on the outskirts that only costs $800 a month. With what we save, we can finally remodel the kitchen we want so badly and even get new furniture for the living room. Each word was a physical blow, a vicious strike that resonated through my bones. My own daughter, the child to whom I had devoted every fiber of my being, was discussing me as if I were a dilapidated piece of furniture, an unwanted burden to be summarily discarded. The $800 a month, the cost of my impending home, was the very money I had been giving them for their personal expenses, meticulously drawn from my pension and meager savings. But the audio continued, and what came next was the final devastating blow, utterly destroying any vestige of hope or trust. Also, I've already checked all the house papers. It's in her name. But Carol already explained how we can transfer it to our name without her realizing. It's going to be about $500 in bribes and fees, but it's worth it. My cousin already has experience with these kinds of arrangements. In that horrifying instant, every piece of the puzzle clicked into place, forming a monstrous image of their conspiracy. Carol's casual visits with her folders, the sudden silences, the parade of specialists assessing my house and my mental state. It had all been a meticulously orchestrated charade, a cold, calculated plan to have me declared incompetent and seize my property. My house, the embodiment of my life's work, built with my own hands over 30 years, the place where I had raised Grace, where we had celebrated her birthdays, where I had cried tears of joy at her college graduation, where I had dared to dream of my future grandchildren playing. That house, valued at approximately $485,000, representing all my assets, all my future security, my entire life's legacy, was to be stolen. I already spoke with the director of the St. Francis home. Grace's voice continued, a chilling monotone that seeped into my bones. I explained the situation. I told him that my mother has early-stage dementia and that it's dangerous for her to live alone. He was very understanding. He says they see cases like this all the time. I've already signed all the preliminary admission papers. My legs gave way, buckling beneath me, forcing me to sink to the cold kitchen floor. My own daughter had fabricated lies about my mental state to a stranger, had signed papers to have me institutionalized without my consent, all with the chilling ease of someone planning a vacation. "The plan is perfect, honey," she chirped, her voice brimming with perverse satisfaction as she addressed Richard. "Next Tuesday, we're going to tell her she has a routine medical appointment. We'll take her to the home, check her in, and by the time she realizes what happened, she'll already be inside, and we'll have legal guardianship. Carol says that with the medical reports we got, which say she has mental confusion, it will be very easy to prove she can't make decisions on her own. Those fake medical reports, fabricated with the assistance of corrupt doctors, those evaluations I had naively permitted, believing they were for my well-being. It had all been a monstrous farce, a meticulously constructed file designed to strip me of my freedom and my rights. Richard's faint laughter could be heard in the background, punctuated by comments I couldn't quite discern, but his tone of active approval was unmistakable. The man I had welcomed into my family, whom I had financially supported, whom I had treated like a son, was an active, willing participant in this insidious plot to dismantle my life. The best part of all, Grace continued, a cruel laugh tearing through my heart, is that she'll never suspect a thing. She thinks we're the perfect children who adore her. She still says, "Thank you for taking care of me, honey," when I bring her breakfast in bed. If she only knew that I'm giving her that breakfast to keep her calm while I prepare her funeral in life. In that agonizing instant, something within me broke irreparably. It wasn't merely the betrayal. It wasn't solely the searing pain of discovering my daughter's hatred. It was the crushing humiliation of realizing that while I blessed her every night in my prayers, thanking God for such a good daughter, she was meticulously calculating the remaining days until she could be rid of me. With the $485,000 the house is worth, we can pay off all our credit card debts, the car loan, and we'll even have enough left over to go to Europe on vacation like we've always wanted. Grace's voice continued, painting a vivid picture of their avarice. And the best part is we won't have to pretend to love her anymore. No more Sundays pretending we like her horrible food. No more listening to her repetitive stories from when she was young. Every word was another brutal stab, each one tearing deeper into my already shredded heart. My food, which I prepared with so much love every Sunday, hoping they would visit. My stories, which I shared wanting to impart the beautiful memories and lessons of our family history. Everything I believed was love, and connection was for them a tiresome nuisance they were forced to endure. In a month, Mom will be in the home and will own everything, Grace concluded, her voice devoid of remorse. We can finally live in peace without that bitter old woman controlling us. Besides, the life insurance she has is in our name, so if something happens to her at the home, God forgive me for saying this, it wouldn't be so bad. Those final words, delivered with chilling detachment, froze my blood entirely. Not only did they intend to steal my home and my freedom, but they had coldly, calculatingly factored in my death as a convenient financial opportunity. They had transformed their own mother into a mere investment, hoping to reap profits from both my life and my demise. The message ended with their carefree laughter and casual comments about which restaurant to choose for dinner that night, as if they had just planned a pleasant vacation, not the total destruction of the woman who had loved them more than anything else in the world. I remained on my kitchen floor for what felt like an eternity, the phone still clutched in my hand, replaying the message endlessly, desperately hoping I had misheard, praying it was a grotesque nightmare from which I would soon awaken. But with each repetition, the reality became starker, more painful, more terrifyingly definitive. That night, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I could only wander aimlessly through my house, gazing at every object, every photograph, every memory I had meticulously built and cherished, thinking that one day I would lovingly pass it all on to my daughter. Now I knew it would all be stolen, sold, or unceremoniously discarded without an ounce of respect for the precious memories it embodied. But as I paced through the darkened rooms in the early hours of that morning, something profound began to stir within me. The overwhelming sadness and pain, slowly but surely, began to transmute into something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Pure, cold, unyielding determination. My daughter believed I was a naive old woman, easily manipulated, easily dismissed, but she had made a grave, irreparable error. She had utterly underestimated the woman who had raised her. As dawn broke, I rose with a clarity of purpose that had eluded me for months. I put on my most elegant crimson suit, the one I reserved for truly special occasions. I gathered my purse, ensuring all my important documents were safely inside, and left the house before Grace and Richard stirred from their complacent slumber. I had a plan, and they, in their arrogance, had absolutely no idea what was coming. The counterstrike. That morning, I woke precisely at 5 a.m., as if my very body knew this was to be the most important day of my life. All night, my mind had been a whirlwind of calculations, meticulously planning every move, every word, every precise detail of my impending actions. I was no longer the unsuspecting Heng Yi, the naive mother who had allowed her own daughter to manipulate her for months on end. Today, I was going to deliver a harsh, unforgettable lesson, demonstrating to Grace the colossal error she had made in underestimating the woman who had brought her into this world. I carefully dressed in my crimson pantsuit, the very same one I had worn to her college graduation, a poignant symbol of my enduring sacrifice and her fleeting success. I applied my makeup with an uncharacteristic precision, styled my hair elegantly, and donned the delicate pearl earrings my mother had bequeathed to me. I wanted to project the image of the strong, dignified woman I truly was, not the vulnerable, easily victimized figure they had so arrogantly assumed me to be. Before I departed, I penned a brief note, leaving it conspicuously on the kitchen table. Left early to take care of some personal matters. Will be back in the afternoon. Love, Mom. I offered no further details, for they deserved none. For months they had made decisions about my life without a whisper of consultation. Now it was my turn to act decisively and without explanation. My first strategic stop was the bank. I arrived precisely at 8 a.m., just as their doors swung open. "Good morning, Miss Xu Hengyi," greeted Nora, the branch manager who had known me for 15 years, her smile warm and familiar. "How can we help you today?" "Nora," I stated, my voice imbued with a newfound firmness that clearly surprised her. "I need to review every single transaction in my account for the last 6 months, and I want to change all my beneficiaries immediately. I also need you to thoroughly investigate if anyone has attempted to access information about my accounts without my explicit authorization." Nora's brow furrowed with concern as she navigated my file on her computer. "Miss Shi Hengyi, I do have several inquiries about your account registered here, all made by your daughter Grace. She presented a letter, supposedly signed by you, authorizing her to review your bank statements to help you with your finances." My blood boiled with a renewed intensity. "Nora, I never signed any such letter. Can you please show me that document?" When she presented the supposed authorization, I immediately recognized the crude forgery. It bore a superficial resemblance to my signature, but the slant, the specific formation of letters, was subtly, unmistakably wrong. "This is a forgery," I declared, holding up my ID for her to compare the signatures. "My daughter has been fraudulently accessing my bank information. I need you to immediately cancel any authorization she has and place a stringent security alert on my account." Nora's face paled as the gravity of the situation dawned on her. "Miss Shi Hengyi, this is extremely serious. We will immediately cancel all unauthorized access, and I strongly recommend you file a fraud report." "That's precisely my intention," I replied, my voice unwavering. "But first, I need to completely protect my assets. I want to transfer all my funds to a brand new account that only I can manage, and I want to change the beneficiary of my life insurance." For the next hour, Nora, now visibly shaken but incredibly helpful, assisted me in meticulously securing all my finances. I transferred my $8,750 in savings to a completely new, untouchable account. I changed all my passwords, creating impenetrable barriers, and, with a subtle yet powerful sense of justice, I designated a charitable foundation dedicated to abandoned seniors as the sole beneficiary of my life insurance. Grace was no longer going to see a single cent of my hard-earned money. My second strategic stop was the county clerk's office, where Carol, Grace's complicit cousin, worked. I arrived unannounced, my small digital recorder discreetly hidden in my purse. "Good morning, Carol," I greeted her, offering a sweet, almost disarming smile. "I've come to check the status of my property. My daughter told me you had been helping her with some paperwork." Carol immediately stiffened, her composure fracturing. "Oh, Aunt Shi Hengyi, what are you doing here? Grace didn't tell me you were coming." Her hands trembled perceptibly as she hastily attempted to close some documents scattered on her desk. "Don't you worry, Carol," I said, maintaining my casual conversational tone. "I just want to better understand this insurance paperwork my daughter is doing. Could you explain exactly what documents you need with my name on them?" Carol began to visibly sweat, her nervous energy almost palpable. "Well, Aunt, it's just routine updates for the registry." Her voice cracked, betraying her fear as she realized I knew far more than I was letting on. "Carol," I said, leaning forward slightly, my voice dropping to a low, firm register, "I know exactly what you and my daughter have been planning. I know about the fake documents. I know about the plan to take my house. And I know you've been helping her forge papers using your position here." I then revealed my phone, displaying the voice message I had recorded the day before. "I have proof of everything." Carol slumped in her chair, utterly defeated. "Aunt Shi Hengyi, I didn't want to do it, but Grace told me that you couldn't take care of yourself anymore, that it was for your own good." "It was for money, Carol. Don't you dare pretend it was for my own good," I retorted, my voice sharp and unyielding. "Now, you have two options. Either you help me completely reverse everything you've done, or I walk straight to your boss and present all the irrefutable evidence that you've been forging official documents." Carol burst into tears, her facade crumbling completely. "Please, Aunt, I can't lose my job. I have 3 kids to support." Between sobs, she confessed everything, detailing the entire malicious process, how they had forged my signature on multiple documents, how they had created spurious medical reports, and how they planned to leverage all of it to have me declared incompetent and illegally transfer my property. "All right, Carol," I said once her confession was complete. "You're going to help me fix this right now, and then you're going to start looking for another job. But if you help me now, I won't press criminal charges against you." Over the next 2 grueling hours, Carol, now fully compliant, helped me invalidate all the fraudulent documents they had so cunningly created. She also, crucially, provided me with copies of everything as irrefutable evidence, including the fake medical reports and the property transfer documents they had so confidently prepared. My third and perhaps most crucial stop was with attorney Harrison Ford, widely acknowledged as the most respected and formidable lawyer in the entire city. "Attorney Ford," I began, my voice steady as I laid out the mountain of evidence I had meticulously collected before him, "I need your urgent help to halt a profound fraud and protect my fundamental rights." Attorney Ford, a man whose reputation preceded him, reviewed all the documents with an intense professional focus, his expression shifting from calm to grave. "Miss Xu Heng, this is a very serious case of family fraud. We have more than enough evidence to press significant criminal charges." He paused, looking at me intently. "But tell me, what exactly do you wish to achieve?" "I want justice, attorney," I replied, my gaze unwavering. "But most of all, I want my daughter to learn unequivocally that actions have profound consequences. For 66 years, I have been too good, too generous, too understanding. It is high time for someone to defend me, even if I have to be the one to do it myself." The attorney, a flicker of admiration in his eyes, offered a slight acknowledging smile. "Miss Shi Heng, we are going to prepare a legal strategy that not only safeguards all your rights, but also sends a crystal clear message about the severe consequences of attempting to defraud a senior citizen." For the next few intense hours, we meticulously prepared a comprehensive civil lawsuit for fraud, falsification of documents, and attempted illegal appropriation. We also, critically, prepared a detailed criminal complaint against Grace, Richard, and Carol. The attorney assured me that my case was rock solid, a veritable fortress of evidence, and that it was highly probable I would recover all damages caused. By the end of the afternoon, as I departed his office, a profound shift had occurred within me. I was no longer the vulnerable, shattered victim who had left her home that morning. I was a woman who had decisively seized control of her life, ready to face the inevitable fallout of years of allowing others to relentlessly abuse her kindness.